Hello, guys, and welcome to this session where we'll be going through your AFM quiz one, which was basically a quiz that expected you to calculate time value of money, present value, future value under different circumstances. Now, while time value of money as a concept might not be tested in AFM independently, but it is the base for every question that you will attempt ever in your AFM syllabus. So, which is why I had given this test to you, and now let's understand how each of the answers are calculated. Okay, so we'll go item by item. Question one, a 15-year annuity of 500 starting at once. Interest rates are 5%. What is the amount of annuity? It's an annuity of 500. Okay. When is it starting? It is starting at T0. And what is your interest rate? Your interest rate is 5%. And how many installments? It's a 15-year annuity. Okay. So if you have a 15-year annuity, that means there are 15 installments. And now, number of installments is 15. Now the question is, how exactly should we calculate the present value of this annuity? Now the annuity factor for an annuity which starts at T0, okay? Annuity factor for an annuity of n years which starts at T0. How much is that? That is 1 plus annuity factor for n minus 1 years. Okay, so annuity factor for 15 minus 1 years at 5% rate. That is annuity factor for 14 years. 1 minus 1 plus r raised to minus n upon r. 9.899. So here it will be 1 plus 9.899, which is 10.899 or 10.90. So what is present value of annuity? 10.899 into 500. That is 5449.32. Then the second question, a 10-year annuity of 1200 starting immediately. Again, starting immediately means it starts at T0, not late into the future. So I believe it would be quite similar to this one, only the values are different in this number. What is the amount of annuity? It is an annuity of 1200, which starts at T0. Rate of interest is 8%. And how many installments? It's a 10-year annuity. So annuity factor for 10 minus 1 years is how much? 1 minus 1 plus r raised to minus n, which is minus 9 upon r. 6.247. So this is 1 plus 6.247, which is 7.247. So what is the present value of annuity? Present value of annuity is 1200 into 7.247, which is 8696.27. Okay. Now, a perpetuity of 25,000 starting now, interest rates are 10%. Question 3. Okay. What is present value of perpetuity? Present value of perpetuity, which starts immediately, is cash flow plus cash flow upon the rate. 25,000 plus 25,000 upon 10%, which is basically 2,75,000. Then perpetuity of 40,000 commencing immediately, interest rates are 6.5%. Again, per present value of perpetuity which starts immediately is cash flow plus cash flow upon rate. So 40,000 plus 40,000 upon 6.5%. 40,000 plus 40,000 upon 6.5%. How much is that? 40,000 upon 6.5%. 615,384. So 615,385, I will round it up, plus 40,000, which is 655,385. Okay, cool. Let's look at the next one, which is a 10-year annuity of 700 starting at T4. Interest rate is 9%. This is a delayed annuity. Question 5. Annuity starts at T4. When I multiply the annuity by annuity factor, I will get value at T3. Okay. So if I have to calculate annuity factor, how much is that? 1 minus 1 plus r raised to minus n upon r. It's a 10-year annuity. Okay. So annuity factor is 1 minus 1 plus r. What is r? R is 9%. Raised to minus n. Raised to minus 10 upon r. Six point 418. What's the amount of annuity? The amount of annuity is 700. So what is value at T3? 6.418 into, I forgot the amount, 700. So present value is value at T3 into discounting factor for T3, right? Which is this into 1 upon 1 plus 9% raised to 3. 3468.93. Okay. Now look at the next one. A 20-year annuity of 1,000 starting today. Annuity which starts today, interest rate is 7%. What is the amount of annuity? Amount of annuity is 1,000, 20 years. 1,000 starts at T0, 20 years, interest rate 7%. This is basically 1 plus annuity factor for n minus 1 years. So I will need annuity factor for 19 years. है ना? N minus 1 is 19. 1 minus 1 plus r raised to minus n, that is raised to minus 19 upon r. Okay, let's just check whether the formula is right. Yes, we have applied it correctly. So this is 1 plus 10.336. I'm rounding it off to 3 digits after the decimal point, which is 1 plus this number, 11.336. 336. And what is my present value? My present value is 11.336 into 1000, which is 11335.60. Let's look at the next one. A perpetuity of 10,000 starting in 1 year, which means it starts at T1. If a perpetuity starts at T1, then the present value is cash flow upon rate. Present value of perpetuity, which starts at T1, will be present value upon rate. So, PV of perpetuity, 10,000 divided by 15%. Okay, 10,000 divided by 15%. 10,000 upon 15%, that is 66666.67. Okay, next one. A perpetuity of 12,000 growing at 3% starting in 1 year. Question 8. Perpetuity amount 12,000. Then starts at T1. It's like a regular perpetuity, not like which starts immediately. And growth rate 3%. Discount rate 6%. So present value of growing perpetuity is cash flow divided by discount rate minus growth rate. Okay, now the question is, when I say cash flow, which cash flow am I talking about? See, this 12,000 is the cash flow at T1. That is, the perpetuity will start at T1, but it will keep on growing at 3%. So what should we take in the numerator? Should we take 12,000 in the numerator, or should we take 12,000 plus 3% in the numerator? That is the question. See now, in this question, when I say PV of growing perpetuity, the cash flow is the first cash flow after incorporating the growth rate. So 1 plus 3%, the whole thing divided by 6% minus 3%. Okay, so 12,000 into 1 plus 3% divided by 6% minus 3%, which is 4,12,000. Now, there is a slightly different perspective also that is there to this question. See, you have to be careful in terms of what is the timing of the cash flow starting. Now, this is the first cash flow. Now, the point is, are we looking at this cash flow, or when I'm talking about a growing perpetuity, it is the first cash flow is 12,000 and that will continue to grow at 3%. So should we consider 12,000 plus 3% in the numerator, or just 12,000? That's the question. But this formula, this multiplying by 1 plus 3% would apply if the 12,000 perpetuity was starting today. But it is not starting today, it is starting at 1 year's time. So the first cash flow is 12,000. So our value of perpetuity will be 12,000 divided by 6% minus 3%, which is 4 lakhs. So be careful, okay, in terms of which cash flow you are choosing. It is so easy to make a mistake here if you don't read the words of the question clearly. So make sure that you focus on that. Then a 15-year annuity of 900 starting at once. Annuity which starts at once, I think we are all used to the calculation by now. How exactly will we do the calculation? This is an annuity of how much? 900 starting at T0. Interest rate is 4.5%. And Number of installments is a 15-year annuity. So 15 installments. Annuity factor for n minus 1 years. So here we'll need annuity factor for 14 years. Okay. So how is that calculated? 1 minus 1 plus r raised to minus n. That is minus 14 upon r. Okay. 10.223. That's what I'm going to write here. 10.223. And present value of annuity is 11.223 into 900, which is 10100.54. The 10th one, a perpetuity of 60,000 starting now, interest rate is 7.5%. Question 10. PV of, okay, PV of perpetuity which starts immediately is cash flow plus cash flow upon rate. Cash flow is 60,000, 60,000 plus 60,000 upon 7.5%. 60,000 plus 60,000 upon 7.5%. So how do we get it? Eight lakh 60,000. Okay, this is the present value of future cash flows that we have calculated. Okay. Now there are more questions. Let's continue with those. A 7-year annuity of 1500 starting immediately. Interest rate is 10%. Okay. So question 11. Annuity starts at T0. What is amount of annuity? 1500. What is rate of interest? 10%. And what are the number of installments? Number of installments? 7. Okay. So annuity factor for an annuity which starts immediately. 1 plus annuity factor for n minus 1 years. So annuity factor for 6 years. कैसे निकलेगा? 1 minus 1 plus 10% raised to minus n, which is minus 6 upon n, which is 4.355. Okay, so this will be 1 plus 4.355, which will be 5.355. Let's just see if yeah, it's correct. So present value. 8032.89. A perpetuity of 5,000 commencing in 1 year's time, interest rate is 6.5%. Present value of a perpetuity is cash flow upon rate, which is how much? 5,000 divided by 6.5%. 76,923.08. 5,000 upon 6.5%. A perpetuity of 4500 growing at 2% annually. This is a perpetuity of 4500. Just give me one moment, huh, guys? Just one moment. Question 13 is a perpetuity of 4500 growing annually. Okay, so PV of growing perpetuity is cash flow at T1 upon KE minus G. PV of growing perpetuity. What is cash flow at T1? 4500 into 1 plus 2% upon what is KE? KE is 7%. KE rather, I should use the word discounting factor. We have not yet started the dividend growth model. So discounting rate or interest rate minus G. Okay. So this will be 7% minus 2%. So PV of growing perpetuity will be 4500 into 1 plus 2% upon 5%, which is 91,800. Then a 20-year annuity of 600 starting now. Annuity of 600. Okay. What is the rate of interest? 5.5%. How many installments? 20. Sorry. Annuity factor for 19 years. 1 minus 1 plus r raised to minus n upon r. Oh God. 1 minus 1 plus r raised to minus n upon r. One plus 12.608. So how do you get your present value? 7564.59. Then perpetuity or 10-year annuities of 850 starting at T2. So annuity starts at T2. When I multiply the annuity with annuity factor with the annuity factor, we will get the value as on T1. Okay. So it's important, first of all, to calculate the annuity factor. A 10-year annuity 10-year annuity है, interest rate है 9%. 1 minus 1 plus r raised to minus n. What is minus n? 10 years, so minus 10. So 5455.01. And what is the present value? This into 1 upon 1 plus 9% raised to 1, which is 5004.60. Question 16. PV of perpetuity which starts immediately, which is cash flow plus cash flow upon rate, 8.25%. One zero four nine six 9.70. Then question 17. 15-year annuity of 700 starting at T1, interest rate is 6%. 1 minus 1 plus R. What is R? 6%. Raised to minus N. Raised to minus 15. Into 700. This is present value of an annuity. 15-year annuity which starts at T1. Interest rate is 6. Perpetuity of 20,000 growing at 1.5% per year. Question 18. Now you know how to go about it. 20,000 into 1 plus 1.5% divided by 5.5% minus 1.5%. 5,07,500. It is growing at the rate of 1.5% per year. The question you should be asking yourself is, should you multiply it by 1 plus 5% or should it just be this? Perpetuity of 20,000 growing at 1.5% each year. It's an amount of 20 which grows at 1%. So your first cash flow, your first cash flow will be 20,000. So just be a little careful when you are solving this question. A 5-year annuity of 3,000 starting now, interest rate is 7.25. So 1 plus annuity factor for n minus 1 years. So 1 minus 1 plus R raised to minus n, which is minus 4 upon okay. Multiply this with 3,000, 13104, and a 10-year annuity of 1,000 starting at T3. When you take an annuity which starts at T3, 10-year annuity hai, interest rate is 10%. So 1,000 into annuity factor for annuity which starts at T3 will give you value at T2. Okay. 1 minus 1 plus R. What is R? 10%. Raised to minus N upon R. When you multiply the annuity with this number, you will get value at T2. Now, when you need the present value, you will have to multiply this with discounting factor for T2, which is 0.826. You will get your answer as 5075.41. So go through the solutions, and if you have any questions, let me know.